the senator from Massachusetts constituted himself as both judge and jury in the Watergate affair. He spoke with unctuous righteousness about such things as mischief and and honor and exemption from restraints. And all of his remarks were obviously directed to the Watergate charges, although he didn't mention them as such. And I say that one does not have to excuse or condone any of the stupid illegalities of the Watergate affair to suggest that Senator Kennedy is the last person in the country to lecture us on such matters. President Smith and President Jones, you know, it isn't often that you get a Smith and a Jones president at the same time. Like my secretary is married to Earl Eisenhower, who was nephew of Ike. Job ahead of us. But while I'm not inclined to come here with a sugar-coated message stating that all is well in our party, neither am I about to tell you that it's time for the Republican Party to roll over and play dead. That time will never come. And I suggest that it will take a lot more than Watergate to kill off the Republican Party, and it will take a lot more than a biased press, a Ted Kennedy, or a gaggle of righteous Democrats. Now, I thought I'm just getting going. And in this connection, I might say I'm sick to death of reading and hearing about every penny of government money spent on the places where our president goes to conduct the business of this nation. I don't recall any great preoccupation in years past with improvements on a Texas ranch, or decisions by government regulatory agencies affecting television permits in Texas, and the personal fortunes of Democrat office holders made while they were in office. Now, there appears to be an unusual emphasis today on everything even slightly questionable in the expenditure of funds in Republican elections. And I believe it's time for the Irvin Committee to follow the urgings of Senator Howard Baker and begin paying some close attention to national expenditures by the Democrat Party in 1972. As much as I believe in my party, it's just inconceivable that our party should have a monopoly on campaign fund irregularities. Especially when we didn't invent engaged in by the perpetrators of the Watergate bugging incident. Now, the unfortunate aspect of the whole thing is that the amateur and illegal tampering in Watergate was done within the political system on behalf of a Republican candidate. Now, I'm sure I don't have to inform you that ambitious Democrats are making the most of this fact in activities aimed at future elections. For example, the South had another visitor from the North recently when Senator Edward Kennedy, we're calling him Teddy Bear up there, celebrated the 4th of July in Decatur, Alabama, in an unlikely meeting with Governor George Wallace, in a speech which was obviously the opening gun of Kennedy's drive for the presidency in 1976. Not as deep as some people would like to have us think or even wish. More home to their loved ones. How great was the disservice done to the American political system by this handful of self-appointed buccaneers. And I repeat and I emphasize that this activity was not a policy nor a strategy agreed upon by the duly constituted officials of the Republican Party. And if it showed us anything, it showed us to quit forming re-elect anybody's committee. Let's work through the National Committee. And I certainly don't believe that our party should be punished or penalized for the activities of those who apparently had no comprehension of the workings of the American political system and no understanding that a desirable end never justifies unlawful or unethical means, even when those means are dictated by a misplaced loyalty to one's chief, or even when they're dictated by an honest-to-goodness fear of the alternative. But regardless of how those of us who have worked long years to build the Republican Party into a vehicle for carrying the honest and highest aspirations of the American people happen to feel the Watergate case will have to run its course. And I disagree with those who believe the Irvin Committee hearing should be postponed or called off at the request of a special prosecutor. It is my firm belief that we must push on through until every fact surrounding this unfortunate mess is laid bare. And I certainly don't sanction any action on the part of the executive branch, action such as trying to force a postponement of the Senate hearings or a curtailment of the press and television coverage of those hearings. Anything less than executive cooperation with full disclosure would become suspect in the minds of the American people, and it would give credence to charges that the White House is attempting to cover up some portions of this unfortunate affair. Ladies and gentlemen, I was asked the other day in San Francisco what I would do if I were president. I'd probably apologize to Pat and go home, but that's beside the point. I said, I'm not the president, and it's a presumptuous question. But I said, if, as a senator, the same kind of accusations and innuendos were being made against me, I would ask for time to appear before a committee where I could tell my side of the story. And while I don't suggest that the president listen to me, I honestly think this thing could be wrapped up in one afternoon if he made himself available for that kind of a discussion. My friends, our party, we have a problem in Washington. It's right across the river from the Watergate. In fact, the National Airport. And we have, FAA gives us a time slot. And if we're not back on the ground within 5 minutes of that time slot, we don't get back in. And especially with small jets, which are rather noisy, if we're not in close to 11, they wave us off. So we're going to have to run, and I do apologize, but I want to thank all of you wonderful people for this convention. I want to remind you that although you had your convention in my hometown just 2 years ago, that we still have that fine, warmish weather without all the perspiration. And anytime you want to come back, we'll be ready and willing to have you. I want to say good night to you, and thank you again for the great inspiration that you've always been.
Friend Barry Goldwater. You've always had me.